welcome back to G Willie's Garage, and today we're going to be talking about my 1984 ATC 200X. Alright, so this is my 1984 Honda ATC200X, and I thought I'd make a video on it because it's got a lot of kind of unique parts, so I'll go over those. But first, let's talk about a little bit of the history of this and how I got it. I was like 14, I think, when I got this, and I was actually supposed to be buying a Yamaha Tri-Z, but the deal fell through. The guy ended up not wanting to sell it, and a couple days later, my brother-in-law's mom went to a garage sale and they were selling this. And so my brother-in-law called me up and we went over and looked at it. He asked if I wanted it and I said yeah, so he bought it, and I ended up working the rest of that summer, and everything I got, you know, from mowing yards to babysitting, I gave that all to my brother-in-law, and once it was paid off, he let me take it home. I also forgot to mention, I paid $525 for it. That was back in 2005. So the first obvious thing that you're going to notice when you look at this is the paint. It's not the factory color. So I tore this thing down when I was either 15 or 16, all the way down to the frame, and took everything apart, got the frame powder coated, painted the tank, painted the hubs, and put it all back together. This is actually the second time that it's been painted. The first time I painted the frame white. After I painted the tank, I ordered some decals for it, put those on, and then clear coated over the top. That's obviously not the original decal. That's more of like a vintage Honda motorcycle decal, but I wanted to change it up a little bit, and I think it looks pretty good. The headlight was kind of busted when I bought it, and so once I tore it down to the frame and powder coated it, I didn't want to put that headlight back on, and I actually drove it for a while without a headlight on. And my brother-in-law ended up making this for me at his work, just a little plate to kind of cover that emptiness up, and looks pretty good. There's a mount there which actually looks broke, didn't notice that, but it just sits down into these holes that are in the triple trees. And then we kind of did this as a temporary deal, but we just got it zip tied through those hoops. But it's been like that for 15 years now, so seems to be holding up. The next thing that makes this bike a little unique is the engine. This is still a 200cc engine, but this is not a 200X engine. 200X engines are not pull start. when I first bought it, it had the original 200X engine in it, and I don't know, like a couple years after I had it, I put a high compression piston in it and a different cam, and did not do anything with the bottom end, and it ran on 110 and it ran pretty good, but we kind of ran out of luck and it ended up breaking the connecting rod and sent it through the block. I got a picture I'll enter into the video right here. So after it blew up, I couldn't find a 200X engine, and by then I had already bought my 250R, so this thing just kind of sat in the garage with a blown up engine. And I did a little bit of research a couple years after it had been sitting, and turns out you can get a ATC200S or 200M engine and make them fit in there. There's a couple things you got to do to get them to work, which I'll go over. I'll try to remember as much of this. And I mean, when I did this was, I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago when I did this swap. So I'll try to remember everything and go over it with you, but yeah, that's not the original engine. So one of the things that I know was a problem is the brake setup. In order to get this rear brake to work, if I remember right, this is the brake pedal off of like an ATC 200S, and I think if I remember right, had to bend this out further or in a little bit. I don't really remember, but I know that there was something different about the brake, and I know that this is not the factory ATC 200X brake. So I got that on there, and then I just have this little steel plate that comes from the brake pedal to the master cylinder, and now I got working brakes on this. Another thing with this 200X frame and the 200S engine is, I don't know if it's this bike in particular, but I could not get the front motor mount to line up. So I got one underneath the tank, and then there's one right here that goes all the way through the frame. And yeah, that's good enough to hold it, so we're not gonna worry about that front motor mount. Another thing that's different about this is this deal here. This is a compression release that makes it easier to start. So when you rip on the pull rope, this thing opens up and doesn't have as much compression, so the engine can crank over faster. Well, I think I had to dent in the bottom of the tank just a little bit because this thing kept getting stuck. So I did that, but now, you know, no big deal. So since it doesn't have the 200X engine anymore, it does not have a clutch anymore, and I don't mind it because, you know, I can let anybody ride this. They don't gotta use the hand clutch. It's just like a regular old three-wheeler. You just shift the foot shifter, and so anybody can ride this. My nieces and my nephew are around 10 years old. They ride the crap out of this. My girlfriend rides it. So after I got my 250R and blew the engine up in this, I already had my 250R, so I didn't really need to soup this one up. This was just kind of turned into, you know, my little cruiser if I want to go putt around the yard or something. So ended up buying this 6-pack rack, and it's got the little cooler in there. So if we're like going on a group ride or something, we can throw drinks in there and haul those around. Another thing that we did that was custom to this is, at the time, I don't think there was a company that made an aftermarket swing arm for it, and I don't even know if there is a company now that makes an aftermarket swing arm for an ATC200X, but I got on eBay and ordered another stock swing arm. We cut both of the swing arms, the one that I had originally and the one that I bought on eBay. We cut them, but we cut them at different lengths and ended up extending the swing arm 3 inches. We just cut them at different lengths and then welded the two halves back together. And it's, if you look at it, it's actually extended out about 3 inches if I remember right. Since it doesn't need a clutch anymore, I took that off, just put a little button kill switch there. On the other side, I took the front brake off because I just think it makes it look a lot cleaner, and front brakes on a 3-wheeler is kind of dangerous in my opinion. So I took that off, took the rotor off, and kind of just decluttered the front end of this thing. So it still uses the 200X DG exhaust. That lined up fine, no problem, and sounds pretty good for being as slow as it is. One of the nice things about doing the 200X auto swap is you get all that nice suspension where, you know, a 200M or a 200S doesn't have any suspension, so you're always bouncing all over the place. This thing is actually really nice, comfortable. So that's the rundown on my 1984 ATC200X with the automatic swap. The thing I really like about this bike is it's just easy to cruise. Anybody can ride it. You know, it's not a clutch anymore, so anyone can ride it. My nieces and my nephew, they're all around 10 years old, like I said. They like to rip this thing, and it's comfortable with the suspension. I got the drink carrier on the back there. It's just all around pretty nice bike.